Welcome to DNA Clarity and Support. I'm your host, Brian. Listen as I chat with authors and leaders in the DNA world about the family and personal impacts of DNA testing. You'll hear news stories, unique perspectives, find out about books, websites, organizations, other podcasts for those involved in the world of DNA. Please be sensitive to younger listeners as the conversations can get intense at times. This is a production of Watershed DNA. Learn more at watersheddna.com. Today's episode of DNA Clarity and Support is with Melissa Guida-Richards. Melissa is an author, adoptee, and advocate based in Pennsylvania. She was adopted in 1993 from Colombia to a family in the U.S. Her viral essay, My Adoptive Parents Hid My Racial Identity from Me for 19 Years, was published in Huffington Post in April 2019. She soon launched the Adoptee Thoughts Instagram and podcast to help elevate adoptee voices and educate adoptive parents on the nuances and complexity of adoption. Today, Melissa joins us to share a bit about her story and her book released in 2021 entitled What White Parents Need to Know About Transracial Adoption. Welcome, Melissa. It's a pleasure to speak with you today. Let's hear a bit from you about your book, how it came to be.
Thank you. I'm so glad that we could do this. A little bit about my book. It started off as this brief idea that I had after many, many conversations with my own adoptive parents. For those of you who don't know, I am a late discovery adoptee, which means I didn't find out that I was adopted until I was 19. So by the time we were open about adoption, I found that it was very difficult. And I reached out to other adoptees on Facebook and Facebook groups and everything. And it seemed like I wasn't the only person going through this. And I kind of toyed with the idea of making a book, like a guidebook for adoptive parents. So to know like what they should do, what they shouldn't do, to ask their questions. And over time, it kind of developed into what it is now, which is a bit of everything. It's a guidebook. It's a personal stories from my experience as an adoptee. I have interviews from other transracial adoptees and adoptive parents that I included in there, as well as tons and tons of peer-reviewed research that I uncovered in my journey to write it. And I like to say that it's the white fragility for transracial adoption, and it basically is for anyone interested in adoption, has a connection in adoption, and prospective adoptive parents.
Thank you for that summary. And you were raised in an Italian American family, and when you discovered that you were an adoptee, it also led to a change in your ethnic background. So could you tell us a little bit about when you learned about your adoption and about your genetic ethnic identity and when and how that impacted you?
Yeah. So when I found my adoption paperwork, I saw that I was adopted from Colombia, and I grew up in an Italian American family and a Portuguese American family. Both my parents had immigrated to the United States when they were younger. My dad was like 13. My mom was maybe 8. And so my family was very European and traditional. Like my parents both spoke Italian and Portuguese. My dad was a chef. And he owned restaurants, Italian restaurants. And so like all of my life was just kind of encompassed with that. And they were very traditional. So when I found out that I was adopted and that I wasn't even the same race or ethnicity, it was crazy to me. It was a crazy revelation where I didn't quite know what to do with it. And I was also very angry and disappointed because my parents tried to raise us with like color blindness, where color doesn't matter. But then they also had their own biases that I experienced growing up and heard firsthand from my parents and from other close family members, that it really hurt because I didn't know where I stood, and I didn't know what it meant to be Latina and multiracial. And I couldn't kind of understand where I stood now as a woman of color in a family that did not want to even accept me even saying that sentence.
So it was really a change in the way you viewed yourself. I've heard terms like identity disruption, identity crisis, genealogical bewilderment. Did any of those terms, when you came across them and you started reading about them, really strike you as that, yes, that's the experience that I'm having?
Yeah. I definitely think it was like identity crisis, because I went all my life believing I was one thing, and people would ask me like, "Oh, are you Hispanic? Are you Latina? Like, where are you from? Where were you born?" And I believed wholeheartedly that I was Italian, and that's what I was told to say and believe. So having this whole other identity that I was supposed to now know, it was so confusing. And it was a crisis, because I didn't know the first thing about being Latina, and I didn't know what it meant to be Latina, or how I could mesh those identities together. And it took a very long time and a lot of therapy and a lot of self-reflection and work to get to where I am now.
So you mentioned therapy being very critical. That's something else that I also encourage anybody who's made a DNA discovery, no matter which side of the discovery they're involved in. Therapy is get to a therapist, especially one who understands the area that you're experiencing your crisis, your personal identity crisis in. And when you, how did you mentioned therapy and self-reflection. Were there other things that you did in your life to connect with the new identity that was forming for you? Like what is it like to be a Latina, and how did you connect with that piece of your new identity?
Yeah. Well, I started off with like baby steps. I was in college when I first uncovered everything. So when I got back, I slowly started to try to join the Latino community at my college. And there was like a Latino meetup group that met every other week. And I started going to those. Ironically enough, my boyfriend at the time, now husband, he actually is half Colombian too. So we were able to kind of help each other, and with just like understanding more things, I started trying to cook more Colombian meals. It was also a difficult challenge. Like even learning how to cut a plátano, it was so difficult, and I had no idea how to do it. Now I think I'm a pro, but back then it was just so weird. I didn't even eat Hispanic food until college. I never had rice and beans. I never went to I never even went to Taco Bell at that point. Like even though it's like American Spanish food, but still like at that point, like literally I didn't even have that tiny little link to Hispanic culture. So I started going to Latino restaurants and ordering different foods. And now, like, I am slowly trying to learn the language. It's a little easier to understand because I grew up speaking Italian with my adoptive family, and the languages are very similar. So I'm hoping that I can increase my ability to speak it as well. But yeah, so it's been like baby steps where I've been just trying to get little ways to acknowledge it. I think my most important and favorite way is listening to Latino music. I really love reggaeton, and like Bad Bunny, one of my favorite artists, and like Maluma. They're all like great because it feels like an easy way to incorporate a little bit of my culture, but also not be too intense where it like brings up a lot of feelings all the time.
So music and food and language, those were all really important aspects to you for discovering your Colombian background. Has your connection to your Italian identity changed?
Yeah, definitely. At first, when I was younger, I really just needed to separate myself from it because I couldn't mesh the two. And at that point, it was just like, it was so overwhelming to adjust to a new identity. I couldn't even think about the other. But now I have found space where like I can incorporate both. When we do holidays, for example, my mother makes sure to include her recipes, but also like every year we've been doing like a new Colombian recipe. We've been doing fried plantains, we've been doing empanadas, we've been doing all sorts of things just to kind of get that little connection to both cultures. And like my mom, she still comes over and we see each other pretty frequently. And she will occasionally talk in Italian to my kids. And we go to family parties too that have like very heavy Italian influences.
So I noticed that your mother wrote the foreword for your book. So that shows that where things started at the point of your discovery of your adoption and where they are now are like two completely different places.
Yes, definitely.
How did you get there?
It took a lot of work. Like I mentioned, the first few years it was very hard. I couldn't even talk to my mom for the first year without being so angry. And then slowly, I actually studied psychology in college. So we talked a lot about like racial identity and development and in my cross-cultural classes. So I started to learn more about race and how it impacts a development and kind of what I missed out on and what I was going through as I was trying to figure it out personally. And I just started opening conversations with my parents about like, this is what's going on. This is why it was such a big deal. Like, I love you guys, but it doesn't mean you didn't hurt me. And, you know, we have to talk about it. And we got to the point where for a while there, my parents were like, okay, we understand, but we still don't think of you as Latina. Like, you're still Italian to us. You're still our daughter. That's all that matters. But we had to work through a lot more conversations. And it just took time, honestly, a lot of time for my parents to really see that, like, if you love me, you have to love all of me, not just what you prefer. And like we had to talk about biases and how it hurt us. And then when I had kids of my own, that really put like my butt in gear where I was like, no, we have some serious work to do because I don't want my kids to hear any of the stuff that I heard growing up. And we kind of, my parents needed to kind of shape up a little bit on just respecting other cultures and the importance of incorporating that into our family.
So it sounds like it was a roller coaster and passage of time was a big piece of that. So where are some points that you think your parents got it right and where actually this probably ties into your book? You probably mentioned places where, you know, parents can do things right and where they might have kind of not done things right. Do you want to talk a little bit about what your book touches on related to that?
Yeah. One thing that it's important to note that like my parents were at like different levels of their journey. And sometimes one would do something great and the other would be like, ooh, that definitely needs work. And one example I talk about in my book is reunion, because I was able to find some birth family. And my father at the time, he's since passed, but at the time he was super excited for me. He was like, oh my gosh, you found family. This is amazing. This is a great connection. Go meet them, like go right now, go meet them. And he was all for it. But my mother, on the other hand, she was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't know. I don't like these people. I don't trust them. This stuff is weird. And I think both reactions are like two sides of a coin where like parents can be, adoptive parents can be. But I feel like my father realized that I was researching and trying to find family because to him, and he had always taught me like family is everything, you know? And so he's like, more family, the better. And for my mom, it was just kind of like, oh, well, I feel like someone might take my place. Like, what if she wants to go with them and won't want me anymore? So we had to work through that. And my mother took a little bit and to be reassured that no, I wasn't leaving the family. It just means there's more now and I have more connections. But that was one thing in particular that I touch upon in my book. Other things that include is just like adoptive parents making efforts to include birth family. So, and birth culture. So my mom, she makes it a point now to try to bring up or cook Latin food. She will listen to the music with me, and she's just more accepting of like my kids wearing. She'll get them shirts with like Latino sayings on them and just stuff like that. Just little things that matter and make a difference that she wouldn't have thought of before.
You mentioned that you have connected with some relatives. Were they maternal side or paternal side or both? And was
they're all
a part of that?
DNA was part of it. I found 2 half sisters via 23andMe. I took the test way back, like I think it's like 7 years now. But at first, there weren't any results except for like 3rd or 4th cousins for a long time. And then about 2 years ago, I got a message from someone saying like, hey, I think we're half siblings. It popped up on my thing. Do you want to talk? And so I did. And luckily we were able to connect, and they actually were adopted into a different family than I was. And we live a few states away from each other and had no idea that we existed until we did this test.
Wow. Have you had a chance yet to meet in person?
I have not, unfortunately. COVID shortly happened right after we found each other and started to really kind of get to know each other. But luckily, thanks to technology, like we text each other every week and we check in, which is really nice that we've been able to build our relationship even hundreds of miles away from each other.
Yeah, technology has really made things different, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Have you tested anywhere else besides 23andMe? Do you think you might?
I didn't, but I like uploaded my results, I think, to like Heritage. I was able to find my birth mother in Colombia, but that was through an investigator. I was lucky to do that. And there by her, I found more siblings. And I talked to them on like WhatsApp. That's a little more difficult because there is the language barrier. So I rely heavily on translation, Google Translation. But yeah.
So for other adoptees who make a discovery later in life that's affecting their identity, whether it's discovering that they are adopted or discovering that they have a different ethnicity than they were raised to believe, what encouragement and guidance do you have for someone who's, say, just a day into the discovery or a week into the discovery?
I would say take your time and be patient with yourself, because in the beginning, like I felt like I had to research everything at once and to jump into trying to search and jump into finding more information about my culture. And it was all just like such a shock that I wasn't giving myself a chance just to feel. And so I think taking the time with everything can give yourself space just to feel all those emotions, to figure out what you really want, and without pressure from outside sources too. And to find a support group of other adoptees or other NPs, because having that support of other people who have gone through a similar experience is invaluable.
Are there specific resources that you found personally helpful for your particular discovery that you would like listeners to be aware of, besides your book, of course?
Yeah. In my book, I do have like a ton written out for you guys, but also there are endless like Instagram pages. If you follow me at adoptee_thoughts, anyone I follow is a great resource. If you just search adoptee voices, you'll find like dozens of different people.
And for listeners on the watersheddDNA.com website, there is a downloadable PDF brochure that lists all of the members of the Coalition for Genetic Truth. So there are different groups, and sometimes the first one you find isn't the one that's going to be the most helpful for you. So my recommendation to listeners is to try a bunch and then unfollow the ones that just don't seem to be the one where you are at that point in time, because, over time, your needs change. Melissa, for someone who is on the edge of going and buying your book now, especially adoptive parents, which that's the target audience, that's who you are hoping will hear you have to say, give us a final summary why you think an adoptive parent would benefit from your book.
I feel like adoptive parents can benefit from my book because no matter where you are in your journey, whether you're thinking about adopting, you have adopted, or you plan to adopt again, there's so much valuable information in there that you can learn from. And it gives you idea for activities. It gives you ideas for more research that you can look for. Like any question that you have, there's a lot of answers in there. And a lot of the times I feel like just with adoptive parents and just parents in general, it's an amazing thing to be a parent, but we don't know everything. I'm a parent myself, so we're all going to make mistakes, but this will at least give you a step in the right direction, especially towards transracial adoption.
Well, Melissa, I commend your bravery and the perseverance it takes to get to the point of having a book in the hands of its readers. I know that's not easy. And I also commend your parents on going along the journey with you. And I'm really glad to hear where you are now and to see that your parents have been open and encouraging and communicative and open to hearing what your thoughts are. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of DNA Clarity and Support podcast. Head on over to watersheddDNA.com to learn more about the resources and support available for those involved in DNA discoveries.